Men's and women's basketball hit the road. Penn's hockey is getting closer to the midseason mark, while the college sports world is hot as always. And who is the best option for the Steelers' new offensive coordinator? It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Hello everyone and welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Natalia Hillen. Point Park basketball is back for another great season ahead. The men and women's teams have started their season strong. The men's team is standing at a 7-0 record overall, leading in rebounds in the nation at 58.3 boards per game. They're in 8th scoring in the nation at 93.4 points per game and have won 30 games since last year. On November 13th, the Pioneers took a win against Washington Adventist 79-67, and in their most recent game before Thanksgiving break, they took a win against Bryan and Stratton Rochester 87-64. Point Park led the first half 44-28 and shot 48% with the Bobcats at 31%. Jameson Smith led with 22 points and 4 for 9 from the three-point range. Nate Van went 3 for 6 on his way to 15 points. Joe Valerie shot in 12 points and Jalen Stamps with 11. PPU made 14 trays on the day. Final starter Jags Jawar made both shot attempts for 5 points, blocked 4 shots, and got 4 rebounds. The Pioneers dominated rebounds 58-24. Overall, Point Park had 20 assists on 34 made baskets as well. The final score of the game was 87-64. The Pioneers are taking on Rio Grande tonight at 7:30 p.m. for their first RSC matchup out of 17. Good luck, boys. Switching gears over to the women's team, as they have an overall record of 4 wins and 2 losses starting off the season. They have played 2 exhibition matches so far this season against the University of Pittsburgh and Marshall University. Over Thanksgiving break, the Pioneers traveled on the road to play NCAA Division II Malone University. Point Park was down at the end of the first quarter 14-10, and in the second quarter, Point Park started getting more shots in, outscoring Malone, and took the lead with shots 19-18. Some highlights in the second quarter were Jillian Piccolino shooting a 3 and Alexis Giles nailing a jumper to get a 7-0 run. This got the score to 27-27. With Legacer scoring as well, Malone was up by 3 points with a score of 32-29 at the end of the first half. The second half started with Malone getting a 15-5 run. By the third quarter, the score was 47-34. PPU got within 9 points at 54-45 after 3. Starting the fourth quarter, Malone got another run of 8-2, making the score 62-47 with 7:23 left. The final score was 63-75 Malone. Malone shot 40% and PPU shot 38%. Key players of the game were Jillian Piccolino leading with 16 points and 4 assists, Ari Blada putting up 13 points and 4 assists, and Gabrielle Legacer joining with a double-double of 12 points and 10 boards. Coral Holmes got 8 points, and Arkia Ballo registered 8 points. The Pioneers are on the road to play against number 7 ranked Rio Grande tonight at 5:30 p.m. for their first RSC matchup of the season. Good luck, girls. After the break, we're back with all things locally and nationally. Don't go anywhere.
Hey.
Good evening and welcome to News Night. My name is Craig Furkowski.
Tonight, we'll cover all your international, national, and local news.
Australia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet.
Over 8,000 items are to be auctioned off at Pittsburgh International Airport on October 22nd.
Last Thursday, the House committee investigating the January 6th attack chose to subpoena former President Donald Trump.
All this and more
coming up on
News
Night.
Night.
Welcome back. Now I'll be sending things over to Nick Shermito for all things locally. Nick?
Thanks, Nat. The Pittsburgh Penguins have seemingly found their game over the Thanksgiving break, however struggled with finishing results. The Penguins took on the New York Rangers on Wednesday last week, falling to the Metro Division leaders 1-0, with the lone goal being scored by former first overall pick Alexis Lafreniere. Goalie Jonathan Quick made 32 saves for his second shutout of the year. On Friday, the Pens traveled to Buffalo to take on the Sabres. Sidney Crosby scored the lone goal of the first period, giving the Penguins the 1-0 lead, on his 13th of the season. In the second period, Lars Eller scored his third goal of the year to extend the lead to 2-0. However, in the third period, the Pens fell apart. Just over 5 minutes into the period, Jeff Skinner scored his 9th of the year to cut the Pens' lead in half. Just over halfway in the period, Kyle Oposo scored his first of the year to tie the game at 2-2. Lastly, with less than 3 minutes left in the game, Alex Tuch scored his 6th of the year to give the Sabres a 3-2 lead in the eventual win. Lastly, the Pens had to shake off that loss quick as they traveled back home to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. Just under 4 minutes into the game, Tyler Bertuzzi netted home his 5th of the year to give the Leafs the quick 1-0 lead. However, less than a minute later, Jake Getzel would put in his 7th of the season off a great passing play from Drew O'Connor and Sidney Crosby. Unfortunately, just over 3 minutes later, Matthew Nyes tipped in his 6th of the season to give the Leafs the 2-1 lead. Halfway in the second period, Noel Acciari would steal the puck on a forecheck and roof one past goalie Joseph Woll to score his second goal of the year and tie the game at 2-2. Later, with 28 seconds left in the period, Erik Karlsson ripped one off a faceoff to pot his 6th goal of the season and give the Pens a 3-2 lead. With no scoring in the third period, the Pens would win 3-2 and improve their record to 10-10-0. The Pens look to ride their momentum into Nashville tonight as they battle the Predators, who have won their last 5 games. Puck drops tonight at 8 p.m. at Bridgestone Arena. With that in mind, let's hear from Steelers fan 7 himself, John Mayer, as he recaps the Steelers' divisional win in Cincinnati. John?
Thanks, Nick. It's officially a new era on offense in Pittsburgh as the Steelers went on the road to Cincinnati to defeat the Bengals by a score of 16-10 in the first game since former offensive coordinator Matt Canada's firing. With Canada at the helm, the Steelers' offense did not put up 400 yards of offense in a game since 2020. In the first game without Matt Canada, Pittsburgh piled up 424 yards of total offense versus Cincinnati, as they moved the ball up and down the field much more effectively under interim offensive coordinator Eddie Faulkner and play caller Mike Sullivan. Two players that seemed to benefit from the changes in offense were Kenny Pickett and Pat Freiermuth. Pickett threw a season-high 278 yards, with 120 of those going to Freiermuth on 9 catches, which was also a season high. The T.J. Watt-led Steelers defense also came to play on Sunday, with Watt himself notching 2 sacks and a forced fumble, as the defensive unit only gave up 10 points on the day to the Bengals. Backup safety Trenton Thompson, starting in place of the injured Minkah Fitzpatrick, came up huge for Pittsburgh, as he intercepted a pass in the red zone intended for Jamar Chase to get the football back for Pittsburgh in the second half of the game. Steelers kicker Chris Boswell once again had a great performance, as he went 3 for 3 on field goal attempts throughout the game. Next up, Super Bowl 43 rematch, as Kyler Murray and the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals come to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, in which is a must-win game for Pittsburgh, sitting at 7-4 and the number 5 seed in the AFC playoff picture. That's all from me this week. Make sure to follow @SteelersFan7 to stay regularly updated on all things Steelers throughout the remainder of the season. With that in mind, let's hear from Gabe Ebersol about the rest of the sports world. Gabe?
Thanks, John. In NFL action, fans were treated to 4 days of games in Week 12. On Thanksgiving Day, the new look Lions can't change tradition as they fall to Jordan Love and the Packers. Dallas beats the stuffing out of Washington, featuring Deron Bland's NFL single-season record, 5th pick 6. The 49ers handily beat the Seahawks in the night game. The Dolphins deal the Jets a loss on Black Friday football, one touchdown being Javon Holland's 99-yard pick 6 return on a Hail Mary attempt to close out the first half. Key weekend games saw the Jags escape the Texans by a score of 24-21 to keep the lead on the AFC South. The Falcons move into first place in the NFC South with a victory over division rival New Orleans Saints, and the Eagles win an overtime thriller against Josh Allen's Buffalo Bills, who fall to 6-6 and are all but eliminated from playoff contention. Finally, the Chicago Bears scored 0 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, but 4 interceptions off of QB Josh Dobbs for the Vikings is enough to get them a 12-10 victory. Make sure to get your fantasy lineup set before the Cowboys host the Seahawks on Thursday night. In the NBA, young teams are putting the league on notice, as the Orlando Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder each sit second in their respective conferences as we near the 20-game mark of the NBA season. The Celtics currently sit atop the league at 13-4, looking to make a run back to the championship series with new acquisitions Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. The reigning champion Denver Nuggets currently sit third place in the Western Conference, and reigning MVP Joel Embiid is again leading the league in scoring for the Philadelphia 76ers, this year with Tyrese Maxey as his premier sidekick. Key games this week include a Western Conference face-off between the first-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves and Oklahoma City Thunder tonight, and Thursday's doubleheader with Boston and Philly and Phoenix and Denver. The NHL season continues to be quite tightly contested as all 4 division leaders, the Bruins, Rangers, Avalanche, and Knights, are within 1 point of each other. Nikita Kucherov of the Tampa Bay Lightning paces the league with 15 goals and 36 points, and Vegas goaltender Adin Hill leads the league in both goals against average and save percentage. Moving away from the pros, the Harbaugh-less Wolverines of Michigan were able to defeat the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes for the 3rd straight meeting behind Blake Corum's 2 touchdowns on the ground. Number 4 Washington, number 8 Alabama, and number 17 Iowa barely escaped with 1-score wins last week. Moving into championship week, make sure to keep an eye on the Pac-12 championship game as number 4 Washington and number 6 Oregon face off in a matchup not only with massive playoff indications, but also a matchup between 2 of the top 3 Heisman candidates, favorite Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Finally, in college basketball, Purdue overtakes Kansas for the top spot in the rankings, courtesy of the All-State Maui Invitational in Hawaii. Purdue captured the tournament title with a 78-75 win over number 4 Marquette, behind 7'4" All-American center Zach Eddy's 28 points and 15 rebounds. This week's premier matchup is on Friday when number 4 UConn takes on now number 5 Kansas. That's all for me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Nat.
Thanks, guys. After the break, we will be discussing who the best option is for the new Steelers offensive coordinator position. Welcome back to Case of the Week. This week I'm joined by John, Faith, and Peyton, and we're here to discuss who we think will be the right fit for the Steelers' next offensive coordinator in the 2024-2025 season. So guys, there's a lot to dive into here today. We're going to start with our newly offensive coordinator duo together because unfortunately, well, for some people, fortunately, Matt Canada.
It's fortunately.
He's done. He's fired. What do we think about this firing?
It was much needed, and the Steelers' offense finally looks like an NFL offense again. Pat Freiermuth over the middle is something we haven't seen all year. The Steelers went to it time and time again against the Bengals on Sunday, and it worked. They came out with a 16-10 victory. Kenny Pickett and Pat Freiermuth both season highs in yardage on the season. So if they could keep this rolling, personally, I don't think they're going to make a change.
Yeah.
But like one name to keep in mind that could be a possibility if they're looking to hire someone outside is former Buffalo Bills OC Ken Dorsey. As Ken Dorsey, I don't believe he's responsible for Josh Allen's turnover problem. He had the Bills offense ranked in the top 5, top 10, even top 3 of multiple stats throughout this season. And I feel like Josh Allen has a little bit of a turnover issue that still hasn't been fixed. He turned the ball over against Philadelphia. Kenny Pickett doesn't turn the ball over like that. He broke the Steelers franchise records for pass attempts without a pick, passing the great Ben Roethlisberger. And he also currently has the longest streak with a pick in the entire NFL out of quarterbacks right now. So I feel like Kenny Pickett's inability to turn the ball over and Ken Dorsey, why not? If you're going to hire out someone outside, I could see him being the guy.
Yeah. I'm going to start with like already inside the team, obviously. So Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan took over. I really think that if they kind of show up and they kind of prove themselves the next couple of weeks, that they're probably going to end up staying in the positions. If they work well together and they click, obviously the last game we saw that they did so much better without Matt Canada in there. But Faith, what do you think?
So in the NFL, you never want to lose, but it was almost like the Steelers had to lose against the Cleveland Browns to make that change at OC. One name that I found was Clint Kubiak. He was the former offensive coordinator of the Vikings, and he's in San Francisco right now. He's worked under guys like Kyle Shanahan and Kevin Stefanski. His dad was a former NFL coach, and I think he could be a really good fit. When he was the OC in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins had his best statistical season under him, and I just think he could be a really good fit.
Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan taking over. After that Cleveland game, they needed to fire Matt Canada. Okay, that had to happen. It was actually honestly too late, to be honest. But
can I ask you one question?
Yes.
What do you think was that final factor for them to finally make the move? Just another bad offense?
From what I heard, I think they want Kenny Pickett to succeed, and Kenny Pickett has continued to regress and regress and regress, and that was the final straw. I mean, he should have been fired after last season. But Mike Tomlin, the Steeler way, they have to keep everyone together and give everyone a chance.
I respect it.
But I do and I don't, because in the NFL is a business. It's not about being nice to everybody. But anyway, what I was saying about Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan, I was very surprised. I did not think the offense would look as good as it did against Cincinnati, and it looked great. Now,
400 yards.
400 yards. And I mean, we haven't seen that in 50 games. But our bar is pretty low. They only scored 16 points. And about Kenny Pickett, I still have a lot of concerns with him. The way he reads the field, I don't like it. He doesn't get to his progressions that fast. I don't know if he's the guy. I think his ceiling is low. I think he could be a top 12 quarterback, maybe. But there's nothing there that's like special or wow to me.
Dude's only been in the NFL for 2 seasons.
I have
you know
to
what
disagree.
I mean?
You're just going on about how bad Matt Canada was. Don't you think he was hindering his development?
Exactly.
And the worst, arguably, NFL coordinator, one of in history.
I think Matt Canada was a huge problem. And I think he made Kenny Pickett look incompetent. Now, without Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett looks competent. But do I still see issues with Kenny Pickett? He doesn't make all the right reads. He doesn't see the defenses. When pressure comes after him, he panics. I still saw that in the Cincinnati game. And that's why, even though the 400 yards of offense, they only scored 16 points. So, and I think Kenny Pickett could fix these things. But his athleticism, I don't think his ceiling's that high. And I don't know if he can get out of some of these bad habits.
I really see both ways because he is still a new quarterback, but at the same time, Matt Canada just got fired, and he just played the first game with new offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still want to give him a chance. I know.
Absolutely.
I know people are saying that they think Kenny's bad and he's not going to get better.
I think that's what one of the last straws was. It was the Steelers were feeling the pressure of the fans being like, "Is Kenny the guy or not?" And at that point, like, you had to get rid of one of them, and I think Matt Canada was the right choice.
Let me just say this. First game without Matt Canada, season high in yardage for Kenny Pickett. There's still some details to work out, but 400 yards of offense is something we haven't seen in years. If they could keep going on that, this Steelers team does not need to put up This defense is legit. TJ Watt is the defensive player of the year right now, and this defense does not need the offense to go out there and light up the scoreboard. All they need is for them to keep it competitive, move the ball up and down the field, and put points on the board as well. And
Kenny Pickett not throwing an interception is like, that stat is crazy. Like, if that's not showing that your quarterback is reliable, I don't know what does. You know what I mean?
And I think the problem though with Pickett is sometimes I think what part of his problem though sometimes is he's too afraid to throw an interception. He doesn't always make the tight throws in the tight windows.
And he'll learn to do that. But I think a part of that too is like the Matt Canada noise. It was like, you know, Kenny Pickett has a relationship with Matt Canada. Obviously, Kenny Pickett probably, you know, likes Matt Canada. You know, he probably didn't want to see him get fired, but like again, it's the business. But he had to.
They had to make that decision, and I want to go through a couple other options that could be possible. Byron Leftwich, former Buccaneers OC. John, what do you think about him? Kind of maybe.
I could definitely see him coming back because that, in its own way, is kind of an in-house hire in itself. Former Steelers quarterback under Mike Tomlin. Bruce Arians, former Steelers offensive coordinator, learned under him. Similar offensive styles. He didn't do too great in the last year of Tampa with Brady. He got fired, but I could see Mike Tomlin calling up one of his former guys, someone that he played for.
Yeah.
So I could see definitely that happening, Byron Leftwich getting that job. But I do not think he's the right guy for the job.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole list of people. Anyone really could be it that was on the list. But we're going to have to see how they do. I'm really excited to see them play the Cardinals, and we're going to have to see how Kenny Pickett does. I'm really excited.
Knowing the Steelers, they'll probably hire inside, but we can hope.
Exactly.
As long as the offense keeps producing, I have no problem with it.
Exactly.
Kenny Pickett, 278 yards. He doesn't lose you the game. He doesn't turn it over. 7-game winning drives. Kenny Pickett is legit, and I feel like this offensive coordinator change is going to be huge for him.
We'll have to see,
Teams have
guys.
tape now on this. Teams have tape now on this new offense, so it'll be interesting to see if you know, defenses make adjustments and if the success will continue.
We'll have to see, guys. Thank you. Well, with all that speculation, that's all the time that we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.